103 Preface. Preface. HERUKA Düdjom Lingpa 1835–1904 was one of the foremost tantric masters of 19th century Tibet. His written works include 5 visionary texts describing the path to perfect enlightenment from the unexcelled perspective of the Great Perfection, or Dzogchen. This series includes these 5 seminal texts, along with 3 essential commentaries by his disciples. They all reveal the same path to realizing the rainbow body in this very lifetime, but each one offers different degrees of detail and highlights different aspects of the path. Dzogchen's essential terminology and practices are clearly explained, while potential misunderstandings and errors are systematically eliminated. Together they constitute a vast wealth of practical guidance and pith instructions concerning the view, meditation, and conduct of Dzogchen, the pinnacle of the Nyingma school of Tibetan Buddhism. These revered teachings have inspired generations of Tibetans, yet only one has become well known to English speakers, thanks to Richard Barron's popular translation of Buddhahood without meditation. These translations were developed and refined over many years. I served as interpreter for Venerable Gyatral Rinpoche and translated several Dzogchen texts under his guidance beginning in 1990. In 1995, while living with him in the hills above Half Moon Bay, California, I asked whether he would like me to translate any other text. "How about the Vajra essence?" he replied. "Sure," I said, without knowing anything about these teachings received by Düdjom Lingpa in Pure Visions, Tib. Dag Snang, of the Lake-born Vajra manifestation of Padmasambhava. Reading the text for the first time, I knew that I had found my heart's desire, a presentation of the entire path to enlightenment that was coherent, integrated, and richly informative. I was profoundly inspired. I felt that if I were marooned alone on a proverbial desert island with only one book to read, this would be it. Between 1995 and 1998, I translated it under his guidance. Then I served as his interpreter as he explained the text line by line to a hand-picked group of his close disciples, enabling me to correct errors in my translation and clear up points of lingering uncertainty in my comprehension. In 1972, Gyatral Rinpoche was chosen by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and His Holiness Düdjom Rinpoche, Jikral Yeshe Dorje, 1904–87, to be the Nyingma representative accompanying the first group of Tibetans resettling in Canada. In 1976, Düdjom Rinpoche appointed him as his spiritual representative for America and as director of Pacific Region Yesh Nyingpo, his network of Dharma centers. For decades Gyatral Rinpoche has taught students, established Dharma centers, and trained teachers and translators according to traditional methods and with deep understanding of the needs of his Western disciples. Gyatral Rinpoche received the oral transmission of the Vajra essence 3 times from 3 of Düdjom Lingpa's emanations. In Tibet he received it from his root guru, Jamyang Natsik Rangdral, 1904–58, recognized as the enlightened activity emanation of Düdjom Lingpa, and from Zungta Kunzang Nyama, 1904–58, Düdjom Lingpa's enlightened speech emanation and grandson. Later in Nepal he received it from Düdjom Rinpoche, the enlightened mind emanation of Düdjom Lingpa. In 1998 I served as Rinpoche's interpreter as he gave the oral transmission and his commentary to the foolish Dharma of an idiot clothed in mud and feathers to a small group of his close disciples. He asked that this be translated and made available to sincere, qualified Dharma students. Rinpoche authorized me to teach all the texts he taught me, and several years later I taught the opening section of the Vajra essence to a small group of students in Wales. Between teaching sessions, I began reading the text immediately following the Vajra essence in Düdjom Lingpa's collected works, his enlightened view of Samantabhadra. I had already concluded from the Vajra essence that among the wide range of meditations explained in that text, only 4 were absolutely indispensable on the Dzogchen path: samatha, vipassana, cutting through, and direct crossing over. The enlightened view of Samantabhadra, presenting the entire path to enlightenment in one lifetime, focused on just those 4 practices, which reaffirmed my conclusion from the Vajra essence. Not long afterward, while teaching the opening section of the enlightened view of Samantabhadra to a small group of students gathered for a retreat in the high desert of eastern California, I described how I had been deeply moved by my first encounter with this text, the very heart of the Vajra essence presented with great clarity and brevity. A student then asked, "What comes next in that volume?" When I checked, I discovered the sharp Vajra of Conscious Awareness Tantra and its commentary. This is the most quintessential and concise of Düdjom Lingpa's visionary texts, summarizing each of the 4 essential stages of the path with breathtaking clarity. I felt I had no choice but to translate the enlightened view of Samantabhadra and the sharp Vajra of Conscious Awareness Tantra and its commentary, and with Rinpoche's encouragement I did so. In the summer of 2005, in Ojai, California, Gyatral Rinpoche gave the oral transmission and a brief commentary on Buddhahood without meditation, for which I served as interpreter. With his encouragement I translated the text along with Sarah Kandro's commentary, enabled by a generous grant from Zungzar Khyentse Rinpoche, the son of Thinley Norbu Rinpoche and grandson of Düdjom Rinpoche. Acknowledgements. The mission of transmitting the authentic Buddha Dharma to the modern world has been led by H. the Dalai Lama, and the dissemination of the Nyingma tradition in particular was the lifelong work of Düdjom Lingpa's incarnation His Holiness Düdjom Rinpoche, who blessed us with his scholarship and wisdom, established Dharma centers, and taught many of today's lamas. The present translations were inspired by Venerable Gyatral Rinpoche, who transmitted and explicated these peerless teachings. Lama Tharchen Rinpoche kindly granted me permission to listen to his oral commentary on the sharp Vajra of Conscious Awareness Tantra given during his 2013 retreat on the practice of cutting through at Pemarosal Ling in California. I gratefully received the oral transmissions of the sharp Vajra of Conscious Awareness Tantra and the enlightened view of Samantabhadra from Tulku Orgain Funsik. I have received much help and guidance from many Dharma friends and mentors as I prepared these translations, and I have done my best to render these sacred texts in English. I am deeply grateful to Dion Blundell, who has tirelessly devoted himself with sincere faith and altruism to editing my translations. His assistance has been invaluable. However, flaws in the translation may well remain, and I ask that scholars, translators, and contemplatives who identify any errors bring them to my attention so that they can be corrected in any future editions of these works. Technical notes. My goal in translating these sublime treasure teachings has been to render them as accurately and clearly as possible, without omitting or adding anything. In discussing the profound nature of reality, the great perfection literature presents significant challenges for the translator. It employs its own special vocabulary in addition to the highly developed general lexicon of Buddhism. Because these are early days in the translating of the Dharma into English, many terms have not yet become standardized. I have noted the Tibetan and Sanskrit equivalents of key terms to assist readers familiar with other translation choices. Many Sanskrit terms that were translated into Tibetan have become well known, and I have used these original terms where their English equivalents are unsettled or awkward, for example, kaya instead of enlightened body, to refer to embodiments of enlightenment. As a further challenge, it is not uncommon for a single Tibetan term to refer to both the ultimate and the relative natures of its referent, ultimate truth and relative truth, depending on the context. One example is the Tibetan term rigpa, rigpa skt. Vidya, which sometimes refers to ordinary awareness, or cognizance. In other contexts it refers to pristine awareness, which is none other than the primordial consciousness tib. Yishi's, skt. Junana, that is transcendently present in the ground of being. The Sanskrit term Junana, in turn, also has ultimate and relative meanings, depending on the context. On the ultimate level, Junana is primordial consciousness, but at the level of relative truth it simply means knowledge, as in the two accumulations of merit and knowledge. In Buddhist psychology it simply refers to the basic knowing function of the mind. Similarly, the Sanskrit term dhatu carries multiple meanings, with both ultimate and relative senses. It can mean space, tib, dbyings, or domain, tib, cams, but more typically in these works it is an abbreviation of dharmadhatu, translated as the absolute space of phenomena, the ground of being that is inseparable from primordial consciousness. In other cases, however, dharmadhatu has a more mundane meaning as the relative space of awareness, which is synonymous with element of phenomena throughout these translations. This dharmadhatu is the range of phenomena that can be perceived by mental consciousness and is one of the 18 elements, tib, cams, skt. Dhatu commonly cited in Buddhist phenomenology. Definitions of key terms are embedded throughout these texts as contextual etymologies, tib, nges shig, which gloss each component of the Tibetan term, unlike the linguistic etymologies commonly found in dictionaries. The term being etymologized is given in a footnote because it manifests in Tibetan only as a sequence of marked components, whose English equivalents are italicized in the text. The results in English may not be as elegant as the Tibetan constructions, but the core vocabulary of Dzogchen is defined succinctly and powerfully, in a variety of ways, throughout our texts. Tibetan compositions are often endowed with brief or extensive outlines, tib, sab-cad, but they don't always appear explicitly. Topics are simply listed as they come up. Lacking the typographical features English readers expect, a Tibetan text can be very difficult to peruse without first understanding its outline. The sharp Vajra of conscious awareness Tantra may be considered the root text of these revealed teachings not only for its brevity and profundity but also for its outline, consisting of 8 progressive phases tib, scabs, in the unsurpassed path of the great perfection. Pema Tashi's commentary includes a detailed outline built around these 8 phases. But the longer explanations in the enlightened view of Samantabhadra and the more elaborate Vajra essence have come to us as transcripts with no divisions whatsoever. As an aid to navigation, we have indicated the phase headings of the root text in these 2 longer texts, where they are implicit. In the Vajra essence, additional headings were suggested by the text itself or taken from essence of clear meaning. Furthermore, many of that commentary's key passages clearly derive from the enlightened view of Samantabhadra and the Vajra essence. Such quotations are not cited in the Tibetan, but many have been noted here. Comparisons between the parallel sections and passages in our texts will clarify understanding and drive home the essential points. Our texts are found in the collected works of the emanated great treasures, the secret profound treasures of Düdjom Lingpa. My translations are based on the computer input edition of that collection published in 2004 by Lama Kuenzang Wangju of Bhutan, known as Lopan Nikula, who was Düdjom Rinpoche's senior disciple and personal secretary for many years. The colophons of several of our texts show that Düdjom Rinpoche himself edited them for publishing. The process of converting texts from woodblock prints into digital form is critical for the accurate preservation of the vast and profound literature of Tibetan Buddhism. We are fortunate beneficiaries of the many lamas, monks, and laypeople who are engaged in this mission. In particular, Gene Smith, who founded the Tibetan Buddhist Resource Center, established an extensive library of scanned and computer input editions of Tibetan Buddhist works, making them available online to current and future generations of scholars and practitioners. Tibetan names and terms are spelled phonetically in the body of the texts, with Wylie transliteration given in parentheses. Sanskrit terms include diacritics to give readers an appreciation for the correct pronunciation of this beautiful language, whose roots are often visible in English. Foreign terms are italicized on first appearance in each volume, most can be found in the glossary. Tibetan readers may consult the source texts via the folio references to Xuanzang Wangdu's edition in square brackets. Source notes, appearing as smaller characters in the original Tibetan, have been included here in parentheses, whereas my own clarifications appear in brackets. Cross-references between our texts are given using the following abbreviations followed by the folio references. SV, the sharp Vajra of conscious awareness Tantra. CM, essence of clear meaning. MF, the foolish dharma of an idiot clothed in mud and feathers. VS, the enlightened view of Samantabhadra. BM, Buddhahood without meditation. FP, the fine path to liberation. Grand garland for the delight of the fortunate. VE, the Vajra essence. Requirements. These texts clearly reveal the most sublime of all dharmas, secret mantra, Vajrayana, or the Vajra vehicle. The Sanskrit term Vajra signifies the nature of ultimate reality with its 7 attributes of invulnerability, indestructibility, reality, incorruptibility, stability, unobstructability, and invincibility, and yana means a vehicle for spiritual practice. Such profound instructions are guarded as secrets due to their potential for being dangerously misunderstood and to protect the teachings from disparagement. However, these texts also maintain their own secrecy, as Düdjom Lingpa states. Only those who have stored vast collections of merit in many ways, over incalculable eons, will encounter this path. They will have aspired repeatedly and extensively to reach the state of perfect enlightenment, and they will have previously sought the path through other yanas, establishing propensities to reach this path. No others will encounter it. Why not? Although people lacking such fortune may be present where this yana is being explained and heard, because they are under the influence of the negative deeds and the strength of the powerful, devious maras of mental afflictions, their minds will be in a wilderness 500 yojanas away. If you wish to put the meaning of these sacred texts into practice, you must seek out a qualified guru to guide you in your understanding and practice. Düdjom Lingpa continues by stating that you must have belief in the Dharma and your Guru, unwavering trust in the path, earnest mindfulness of death, and the conviction that all composite phenomena are impermanent, so that you have little attraction to mundane activities, contentment with respect to food, wealth, and enjoyments, insatiability for the Dharma due to great zeal and determination, and integration of your life and spiritual practice without complaining. Rather than merely striving to accumulate virtues that might benefit you in some future lifetime, you should seize this precious opportunity, a human life in which you can practice the sublime Dharma, and generate the aspiration to achieve enlightenment in this present lifetime. He continues. If you arrive with that aspiration at the gateway of secret mantra, and you have firm faith and belief in it and strong, unflagging enthusiasm, the time has come to practice. Once you have obtained a human life and encountered a guru and the secret mantra Dharma, if this is not the time to practice the great perfection, then there will never be a better time than this in another life, this is certain. Gyatral Rinpoche has authorized the publication of these translations with the stipulation that they should be restricted to suitable readers, specifically those who earnestly aspire to achieve liberation and enlightenment. Such people will not be fixated on material success, but due to understanding the first noble truth of suffering, they will have turned away from the allures of samsara. Suitable readers will honor the fundamental Buddhist teachings included in the Sravakayana, and they will revere the Mahayana as well, including the cultivation of the 4 immeasurables, the 6 perfections, and the insights presented in the Yogacara and Madhyamaka views. In addition, they will value all the outer, inner, and secret classes of the Tantras and have a genuine desire to practice the cutting through and direct crossing over stages of the great perfection. Finally, suitable readers will treat these volumes with reverence and care. This is Gyatral Rinpoche's sincere request for those interested in Düdjom Lingpa's visions of the great perfection. while those who devote themselves to the practice of these Dzogchen teachings should receive the appropriate empowerments, oral transmissions, and explanations of the lineage masters, the texts themselves do not restrict their readership to those who have completed certain preliminary practices, such as 100,000 recitations of the Vajrasattva mantra and so on. So I do not feel that it is appropriate for me as the translator of these texts to impose such restrictions. This is a decision to be made by individual qualified lamas of this lineage. The teachings translated in this series describe in detail the qualities needed on the part of disciples following the path of the great perfection, without mentioning empowerments. In fact, the Vajra essence states that ultimately, through the realization of emptiness and pristine awareness, one spontaneously receives all four empowerments. Establishing samsara and nirvana as great emptiness is the VA's empowerment. Recognizing precious spontaneous actualization as the self-emergent kayas and facets of primordial consciousness is the secret empowerment. The revelation of pristine awareness, the non-conceptual primordial consciousness of ultimate reality, is the wisdom empowerment. Mastering the fruition in yourself is called the word empowerment. These are the actual four empowerments, devoid of a bestower and a recipient. May these translations be of great benefit to all those who study and practice them, resulting in the swift realization of samatha, vipassana, cutting through, and direct crossing over. B. Alan Wallace. Santa Barbara, California. April 17, 2015.